Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. What a coincidence that is. And this is your Raw recap show. The only recap show that matters. No, that's not fair. There's a lot of people who do fantastic recap shows out there that matter. I'm not the only one that matters. I'm not saying I don't matter. I'm just not the only one. But welcome. I'm glad you're here. Whether you're watching live on the live stream on YouTube. Because if you're watching this later, like let's say you're watching this on a Friday afternoon, friends, let it be known that I do these live now. It's a fairly new process that I've installed into my workflow. Sounding suddenly very corporate, Warren. But no, I mean, if you're watching this later, I usually do this at about 11:30 p.m. On Monday nights. I do the same thing with SmackDown as well. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a great deal. Get to have some people hanging out in the chat right now, such as Jason Campbell, Legendary GF. What's up, everyone? Glad you guys are here. And you know what? Here's the fantastic thing. If we want more people in the chat, if we want more people interacting, coming in, having fun, giving their opinions, giving me some material to work with. I'm being honest here. You can't blame me for being transparent. Why don't you go out and send out the link. Tweet it out. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Instagram. Snapchat. I don't know, man. Just put it out there. Invite people in here. Give it a thumbs up. If you're here, why don't you subscribe? I mean, there's so many things you can do right now. It drives me nuts. I think I'm going to take a sip of water. I may be a little hyper. I had an extra cup of coffee tonight after my delicious meal. Maybe it was one cup of coffee too many. Anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are watching, and whenever you decide to jump in to your Warren Hayes experience. Before we jump in to Raw, let's talk about just what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days. I'm going to be a busy Bumblebee over the next few. I am going to be, well, tomorrow is Tuesday. So I'm going to have my SmackDown recap, which I'm going to do live as well. Right after SmackDown Live, I'm going to be doing that. And then on Wednesday is the usual night where I do my 205 Live NXT recap show over on FightfulSelect.com. Oh, let's just segue in here and talk about FightfulSelect.com. FightfulSelect.com is the premium service of the excellent premier numero uno combat sports news website, Fightful.com, where you can get not only your pro wrestling, but your MMA and your boxing as well, if you're into that. If you're not into that, you can just go to FightfulWrestling.com. And then all you have is your pro wrestling news. All packaged up for you, all nice and tight and proper with a card, a nice little card with your name written on it. I'm maybe going slightly a little too far. But yeah, so you have that site where you have all the news, all your wrestling news. But then if you want a little extra content, you want a little more wrestling related content, then you sign up to FightfulSelect.com. See, and then you have a bunch of stuff, extra stuff, previews, news, previews and scoops and news updates just for subscribers and members. You also have a ton of podcasts, members only podcasts. Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, he does a weekly podcast called The Weekender where he reviews all non-WWE programming for the week, such as Lucha Underground, Impact, NWA, Ring of Honor, you name it, he covers it. Even talks about being the elite, for Christ's sake. Talks about injuries. He covers a whole bunch of stuff. So that's always there. I do my 205 Live NXT recap shows where I recap 205 Live and NXT on a weekly basis. Then on top of that, you get retro pay-per-view reviews that I do with Sean. Those are a lot of fun. We've got actually Survivor Series 1994 currently out, just released fresh out of the box this week. Go check that out. Check out our review, because I can tell you one thing, our review is much better than that show. Wasn't a very good show, but it was still a lot of fun to cover. You should go check that out. Once you're a member, $5 a month. Entry price, entry level, $5. Friends and family, it's not much, and you get a whole bunch of content. So I'm talking about FightfulSelect.com because, like I said, I have my 205 Live NXT recap show. I do that live as well on Monday, not on Monday, on Wednesdays. I do that live as well for FightfulSelect.com members. But WWE this week announced that they're going to be airing 2 episodes of NXT UK. I've started covering NXT UK, not that the Mae Young Classic is over. I've added the NXT UK brand into my recap show. Now they're doing 2 shows back to back this week. I don't know how I can cram all of that into like a 1-hour show. So I've decided to split my recap show this week. I'm going to do 205 Live NXT on Wednesday, and then I'm going to do the 2 hours of NXT UK on Thursday. So you're getting twice the bang for your buck. So that'll be awesome. All of that'll be awesome. So come check that out. And then next week, on top of my usual recaps, if we're going to talk about next week already, it's pay-per-view time, right? Already. We're heading into Survivor Series, right? It's going to be next week. Anyway, I'm going to be doing, if we're talking about Survivor Series, that also means War Games. So I'm going to be doing another prediction show for NXT War Games. Going to be joined once again by C. Danny Mac of the Undisputed Future podcast. Fantastic podcast dedicated exclusively to NXT. He's going to be joining me again. I'm going to do a preview, a prediction show as well for Survivor Series. Prediction shows are always fun. Be around, hang around, be a pal, be a friend, stick around. I got a lot of stuff coming up on tap, and a few surprises as well that I'm very excited, looking forward to announce them. But that'll be coming up very, very soon. Lots of wrestling related stuff that's on the way. And you know what's also very wrestling related, ladies and gentlemen? You know what's always very wrestling related? Oh wait, just before we get into something too far. There's something that happened on Twitter tonight. Not quite sure where this started out. Well, I mean, okay. Basically, the boys over at the Meat Boys, which you get. What's their Twitter handle again? Meat Boys. The Meat Boys. Which you can find at Meats and Sweets. MEATSNTWEETS. Meats and Tweets. The Meat Boys tweeted this picture out during the course of the evening. Let me pull it up here. There we go. All right, look at that. Okay. And they tweet this out saying, "Hey, Warren, congratulations for scoring this spot in this insurance commercial." I'm like, what? That looks nothing like me. That looks nothing like me. That guy's a nerd. He's a nerd. I'm a cool guy. That doesn't look like me at all. Look at our profile. Let me just look like this. Yeah, don't have the same type of profile at all. Mine is much more. My profile is much more classical, right? Much more like a Renaissance painting than this guy. Then people started tweeting out the same thing, and apparently I look like this guy. And you know, full disclosure, I live in Canada, so this is an American commercial. I don't know for what commercial it is. I couldn't tell you, good folks. But this shit's got to cut out. You got to cut this shit out right now. I don't look like this guy. What are you talking about? Meat Boys. That's some silly shit. You don't stand for silly shit here. The Warren Hayes show. All right. Let's move right in. Let's go into my favorite segment here. Bold predictions. That's right. Every time that there's a main roster show, I head onto Twitter and I ask people to feed me, give me, impress me, shock me with their boldest predictions as to what may happen during the course of main roster programming as it stands tonight with Monday Night Raw. So let's go right into it. Let's see what kind of bold predictions we got tonight. First of all, coming from NJPW US, New Japan Pro Wrestling US, also known as Wilfred Watches, my good pal, Wilfred, came in with a prediction tonight. He says, a sandal appears out of nowhere during a Brock promo. First of all, this is a two-level bold prediction. Level 1, that's very bold for Matt Riddle. That would have been very bold for Matt Riddle to show up on Raw or have one of his flip-flops appear in the ring. That would have been something, like to shock Brock or something. But the second level of boldness here is Brock showing up on Raw. That's mind-blowing bold predictions here. Next bold prediction comes from Lisa Lovecraft. Lisa Lovecraft says, bold prediction, Finn Balor makes me question my sexuality. It does that to us all every week, doesn't it? Thank you for the bold prediction, Lisa. Next we have Bevan Boychuk. It says Ken Shamrock. And now, there were a lot of people, parentheses, just before I get into yours, Bevan, no disrespect, but there are a lot of people tonight who were bold predicting things related to Brock Lesnar tonight. Quite a few, such as Bevan here, predicting that Ken Shamrock would return to challenge Brock Lesnar to a Lion's Den match. That's very bold. Especially since I think we heard that Ken Shamrock was kind of itching to get back into the ring. Didn't that kind of make news recently? If anyone in the chat wants to contradict me, feel free to. But good bold prediction, Bevan. Next we have Mike Rand, or Rated R Rand. He says, in an unusual turn of events, the creative team will have a fresh batch of never-before-seen matches, and Brock Lesnar will forfeit the Universal title on the grounds that WWE fans deserve a full-time champion. And you know what? What's interesting here, Mike, is that I'd say, considering what we saw tonight on Raw, half of your bold predictions have occurred, or at least to a certain extent. As far as the new matches, the new match combinations are concerned, or at least leading up to them. But, the Brock dropping the title because we think we don't deserve him. Bold. Archie Castledine says, hot off his best in the world victory, Shane challenges Brock for the Universal Championship and beats him with a left jab, truly becoming the best in the world. Flo Rida, I guess he means Flo Rida here, comes out and spends the rest of the evening performing with Shane. That would have been extremely bold and extremely terrible. What a combination of both. But good bold prediction. And then we have Mags and Bags. It says Brock shows up on Raw tonight and every single Raw and pay-per-view until WrestleMania, becoming the champion we deserve. Oh, the boldness. The boldness. I should have worn a hazmat suit to deal with the levels of bold here. I actually need a drink. It's way too bold. Way too bold, Mags. And there you have it, folks. Our bold predictions for the November 5th edition of Monday Night Raw. Thank you to everyone who contributes and plays along and has a good time coming up with the boldest predictions they can. All right. Enough's enough. We're going to move into Raw. Monday Night Raw. Like I said, 5th of November 2018. Baron Corbin comes out. In fact, the entire Raw locker room, men and women, are out on the ramp. There's a couple of auspicious people missing, but that sort of clarifies itself as we go along in this segment. So the entire roster is out. There's security around the ring to make sure that Baron Corbin doesn't get attacked by Braun Strowman. Apparently, because Braun Strowman could be mad at Baron Corbin because Baron Corbin attacked Braun Strowman before his Universal title match at Crown Jewel, and that may have contributed to Braun losing the match against Brock Lesnar. I didn't watch Crown Jewel, so I'll have to take WWE's word for it on this one. I'm not quite sure. But hey, at least, this is something that happened here. It at least explains why Baron Corbin has the security out. So he says he needs security, because of that situation. And he says, now we're coming into Survivor Series. It's the one time of year Raw and SmackDown go head to head. Then he runs down the match that are already existing for Survivor Series. Brock versus AJ, which, by the way, is the silver lining to me for Brock winning the Universal title again. Let us not forget that during Brock's reign of terror last year and right into this year, his match with AJ Styles was I would say one of the two top highlights of his run. Because I seem to remember his match with Samoa Joe rather fondly, and his match with AJ was outstanding. Probably the best that we had seen Braun in a pro wrestling ring in a long time. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And then we're going to get Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. Again, a match that I think is really, really interesting, super cool. I think that getting Braun, I think getting not Braun but Brock and Ronda, God damn it, getting into a match with Ronda with Becky is fantastic. Becky has all the skills in the world to make Ronda look good. She'll be able to play off her strengths and conceal her weaknesses. It should be a really, really good match. Jason Campbell says, I'm a huge fan of Baron Corbin, and so am I. Baron Corbin is really, really good in his authority figure role. I hope it doesn't come to an end anytime soon because he's really found his way. As far as most improved wrestlers in 2018, Baron Corbin has got to be at the top of the list. Or towards the top. Maybe not at the top. Got to put more thought into this, Warren, before you start making these kind of statements. But he's definitely found his footing, and it's re-energized him. He's been better in the ring, crisper, much more solid, much more fun to look at. And his character's just been outstanding. It's crazy what a haircut can do for a man. So basically, he appoints himself, he being Baron Corbin, he appoints himself as captain of the men's Survivor Series team, and he announces the first two members of the team are Dolph and Drew. That's solid. He said he also added Braun to the team, but he's afraid that Braun is mad at him. But Braun just needs to respect authority, and everything will be fine. For the women's team, he needed to pick a women's captain, and he decided to pick Alexa Bliss, which is super smart because Alexa's injured right now. I think she's a strong enough personality to keep on TV and to maintain on TV. I don't think she should be removed from television. Smart move to keep her on TV while she's nursing her injuries. And she'll be perfect in this role. She already looked the part, with the kind of a semi-beehive she had on her head and the jacket and the bustier. Is that what it's called? Anyway, I don't know. So she comes to the ring and she says, ladies, I'll be watching your matches tonight. And then she makes a match for the evening. Riott Squad versus Natalya, Bayley, and Sasha Banks. A rematch from Evolution. Alexa says that, was about to say, oh, and your match is about to begin right, but it's interrupted by Kurt Angle's music, who comes out and he says he wants to compete in Survivor Series this year because Crown Jewel lit a fire under him, but Corbin says no. Kurt says, look, he wants a match against Corbin tonight, and if he wins, he'll get to be captain of the men's team. Corbin acquiesces, and then he walks off. So then Alexa gets another chance to finish her sentence and starts to say, once again, your match, ladies, your match starts, right? But Braun's music hits, and he comes down the ramp just through the sea of bodies up there. He runs through security. Corbin hits the bricks, goes right backstage, and as Braun is going up the ramp, for some reason, Jinder Mahal decides that he's going to jump right in and keep Braun. He's going to challenge Braun. For some reason, he thinks it's a good idea. Braun, of course, slaps the taste out of him. And then everyone starts fighting. Then the whole locker room, well, it's like the heels then start to go on Braun. Then everyone starts fighting amongst themselves. And then the ladies are nowhere to be found. It's like they fled. It was a really weird segment to begin because there was so much stuff going on. It was really hard to just digest everything that was happening in this segment. You had Corbin coming out to establish Survivor Series, establish the fact that he was feuding with Braun, establish Alexa Bliss as captain of the women's team. Then his first picks for the men's team, Alexa's going to be looking over other people. Then Kurt Angle coming out to try and get stuff done. Then Braun coming out to get stuff done. And then everyone fights. It was so loaded. It was hard to focus. Like, pick one thing, break it up into several segments if need be. Like, I really think they could have put Kurt on another segment just immediately after the ladies match, and it would have worked just as well. I don't know. It was a very exhausting initial segment. Jason Campbell says, I just hate how WWE is booking Bobby Lashley. He needs to be the monster heel just like Brock. Yeah. Well, I think that's what they're slowly inching to, slowly but surely. We'll talk about that when we get to the match. Natalya, Sasha Banks, and Bayley versus the Riott Squad was our first match of the evening. Everything starts backstage with Natalya and her partners being backstage, and Natalya saying that she's going to be wearing her dad's sunglasses to the ring. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, may he rest in peace. So she'll be wearing his eyewear to the ring as a tribute to her dad. And she legitimately started getting choked up. And I was getting legitimately choked up. Stop toying with me, WWE. So Ruby Riott and Natalya start in, and we get some finishers really, really early on, and it's something that really bothers me. I'm not a fan of that. It's just I'm not a fan. Ruby Riott goes for a Riott kick early on, but it doesn't work. Instead, Natalya is able to block the kick and get her into a sharpshooter, but Sarah Logan breaks it up while Liv is distracting the ref. Natalya is your babyface in peril for a good portion of the match here, but she gets the hot tag. But Sasha gets the hot tag and takes everyone out. And call her Miss Meteora. I think she hit like 3 different Meteoras within 25 seconds. She does an initial Meteora in the ring. She does a Meteor. I think she gets a Meteora from the apron to the outside on Sarah Logan, or on Liv Morgan, which was pretty cool. Then she does it was to Logan on the outside, and then she does a Meteora on the top turnbuckle onto Liv, which was pretty cool. She does the backstabber into the bank statement, which is always really nice, and Ruby comes and breaks it up. Bayley then comes in. She's aggressive. She hits a cross body dive to the outside on Morgan and Liv. Looked a little rough. Looked a little didn't look like an easy landing for your girl Bayley. But Riott then Ruby Riott comes in and hits the STO on Bayley. The Riott Squad gets back in control with Bayley, who is your babyface in peril for the rest of this match. Back from commercial, Logan hits a drop kick, covers Bayley, only gets 2. Natalya gets the hot tag and runs Logan down with the craziest of, not the craziest, but the strongest of clotheslines. Like, she was a semi-truck, just mowed Logan down. That was bananas. She goes, Natalya goes to put Morgan in the sharpshooter, but Ruby Riott is on the outside. She has the anvil sunglasses, and that distracts Natalya, who sort of lets go of the move, and Ruby Riott then snaps the sunglasses in half and tosses them to the ground. Natalya lets go of the sharpshooter and starts to cry. And then the baby faces come to console her. The heels go away. And that's your match. All right, we're first and foremost, I don't understand. Like, I get it, okay? I understand grief, right? Grief. I don't understand here, though, why Natalya just didn't snap and go straight for Ruby Riott's throat. You know, just go right for her. Just go completely out of her mind. That would have been such a nice twist. And how much of a great reaction would she have gotten? Because everyone knew what was going on. It's super relatable. Someone being shitty, uber shitty, breaking up a souvenir, a memento of a family member who passed away. Are you kidding me? Is this not something that everyone can relate to? If she had Thez pressed Ruby Riott on the outside and started wailing on her, that arena would have exploded. That's what everyone was expecting. But instead, we get Natalya on her knees, and she's crying. She starts to cry, which is an understandable reaction. But we're also in the context of pro wrestling, where, you know, everything gets settled by punching each other. It's a very, very... And then the ending, if there were at least like a count out, something, but everything kind of trailed off. The audience was doing the count out, you know, but everything sort of came to it felt flat because there was no real wrap up to this opening chapter, to this new storyline that they're developing. Now, I don't want to give the impression that I'm bitching too much, because although I feel that the execution could have been a lot better, I am really, really happy that Natalya and Ruby Riott are apparently being written into a storyline together. I am 100% behind that. We've got two ladies who work extremely well. Natalya, who is a pillar of the women's division at this point, and Ruby Riott, who is solid, extraordinarily good, and deserves a proper spotlight. We're going to put them in a feud together so that they can do stuff against one another. Absolutely fine with that. 100%. And this is a match we haven't seen before. It's not a rehash of Bayley versus Sasha. It's not, or Sasha versus Natalya. This is new. It's stuff we have not seen before, and I am so for that. That is so interesting. And you know what? Natalya versus Ruby Riott has all the potential to blow our fucking minds. If they give them the time, the leg room to make it happen, it'd be fantastic. So the delivery of the setup, I should say, of the storyline tonight may have been a bit of a trip up, but oh man, the matches that are potentially on the way, thanks to this little event, we're in luck. This is good booking, interesting booking, doing new things with the women. Fantastic. This is what I've been wanting for quite a while. Backstage, Braun is still looking for Baron Corbin. He's asking people. That's what you do. Next, we have former WWE champion Jinder Mahal versus Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews does an iPhone promo where he calls himself the human highlight reel. Hopefully Sabu's not listening right now. Don't tell Sabu, because he's gonna run in with his chairs. So basically, this match, not much to this match. Apollo's in control. At some point, Sunil Singh outside distracts, which allows Jinder to hit a big knee to your boy Apollo. Covers him, only gets 2. Then we get into the chin locks. And I think from this point on, Mahal is a big fan of chin locks. I think I'm going to call him Chinlock Mahal from this point on. So, Chinlock Mahal has Apollo in chin locks. But towards the end, at the end of the match, Apollo motherfucking presses. I'm very vulgar tonight. I'm using a lot of bad language. Well, I'm not monetized, so it doesn't really matter. But I hold myself to another standard. I'll be careful. Might be kids watching. Any kids watching? I'm sorry. Don't say those words. Apollo Crews. He presses Jinder Mahal over his head. And it took everything. Jinder's a big dude. He's a long dude. He's a heavy dude. And it took everything for commentary to make a big deal out of it. Like Corey Graves was sort of mumbling something, with sort of droning on about something. Then Apollo actually had Jinder in the air, and then Michael Cole started getting excited. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Anyway, and then Apollo hits the shooting star press for the cover and the win. I am all for the Apollo Crews push. Fun fact, 3 days from now, Jinder Mahal, former WWE champion Jinder Mahal, it'll have been a year since he's lost the WWE title. And what a fall from grace. Next, we have Seth Rollins, who comes in and buries Baron Corbin, basically, for siding with Brock, saying, saying that, you know what, Roman worked so hard to get the title off of Brock. This is a slap in the face to Roman's work, everything he's done. I'm okay with that. Sure. I buy that because it was a shitty decision. So yeah, why not have your shitty decision be put on, kayfabe wise, be put on, your shitty authority figure. I'm perfectly okay with that. He says Dean is in the building, and I asked him last week, to tell me what was going on, what happened, and he didn't have the guts to stand in the ring with me and tell me. I should call him out again tonight and do it, but I don't want to waste your time. He's not going to come out. And Seth starts to say, well, I can't, defend 2 titles at once. I have the tag team titles. I have the Intercontinental title. It's too much. But then Baron Corbin appears on screen and says, sure, Seth, you can defend them both. In fact, you and your partner, Dean, that's what he meant, but Dean wasn't there. So he says, you and your partner are going to defend your titles right now against the Authors of Pain, or AOP, in a handicap match, basically. So it's Seth versus the AOP, and Seth fights as best as he can. Riott decapitates Seth, rearranges his upper vertebrae with a hell of a lariat. Back from commercial, AOP are completely in control. Seth hits the turnbuckles hard, gets covered, only gets 2. He fights out of the final chapter with a drop kick, works on Akam, hits the ropes. He works on Akam, hits the ropes. He does a dive on Riott, who's on the outside, then goes back to the ropes for another diving suicidia on both dudes who are on the outside. So that was really cool. Top rope neck breaker by Rollins, goes for a cover, only gets 2. Seth goes for the stomp, but Drake Maverick and Riott create distractions enough to keep him from hitting it. There's a bit of a messy part towards the ending where Seth goes for a Hurricane Rana on Akam. Kind of doesn't get all of it. Then he kicks Riott to the gut, and that didn't quite look good. If he felt like he mistimed his kick, it wasn't very, very glorious. Seth does hit the frog splash, but Riott kicks out. Riott then powerbombs Seth on the stomp attempt, and AOP win the match. They are your new WWE Tag Team Champions. The purist in me, the NXT man, the guy who was a complete and total mark for the AOP during their NXT run. Well, maybe not complete and total, but you know what I mean. I was a fan. That guy would probably tell you that he doesn't care for the way that they won the titles. Should have got him off a proper tag team in a proper tag team match. But you kind of feel like WWE is giving the tag team division a bit of a push right now. So I think it was important that they kept Seth looking strong. I think it was important that they got the titles off of Seth and Dean. And this was actually the best possible way to do it. Because you see, AOP are not, they need the titles. They're not the chasers. They're not the team that's going to chase the titles. They are the team that you are going to chase to defeat. So by putting the belts on them, it does finally, for the first time in a long time, give some real credence to the Raw Tag Team division. Not that Seth and Dolph and Drew, not that Dolph and Drew were bad tag team champions, that's not it, but it's 2 single guys in a tag team. When you have legitimate tag teams in your tag team division, they should be the ones carrying the load. So right now, I'm really looking forward to the possibility of the Revival and AOP having a series of matches. That would be excellent. That would be badass. But since they're apparently pushing the Lucha House Party from 205 Live on to Raw, I'm kind of expecting WWE's classic big man, little man showdown. So I think that's what they'll be going for because screw originality, screw giving us what we really want. But this isn't a knock on Lucha House Party. I'm a big Lince Dorado guy. It's just, I think you can see this one coming a mile away. Anyway, they win the match. They leave with their brand new titles. Then sneering Dean Ambrose comes to the ring from the audience. He skulks around the ring, sneering. Sneer Dean then comes into the ring and he has a mic and he asks Seth, he says, "You want to know why? You want to know why?" And Seth is like, "Yeah, tell me why, tell me why." And he dirty deeds Seth. Ha ha! You know what I would have done here? How much time? How am I doing on time here? Let me check the time. 41. God damn. All right. You know what? I'm going to try and keep this short, but you know what I would have done? Let's say, give me the booking hat for a second. Just a wee bit of a minute here. Instead of doing this situation here where you have Seth and Dean, where Seth basically is holding the titles alone and Dean doesn't give a shit. What if Seth came out with both belts tonight, just like he did, and he said, "Well, I don't think I can defend all these titles all by myself, especially considering that I don't have a partner anymore. I'm ready to relinquish the titles." And then Dean comes out, and Dean is like, No. You are not relinquishing any titles. You wanted these titles. You're going to defend them because I am still your partner. We both need to agree that we're giving up on these titles. We're a team. Let's do this. Now, this comes from the logic that I think that Dean, his resentment towards his Shield friends and buddies was all the focus that they had on titles. They were always talking about his titles, and he started to feel jealous or felt underappreciated because the titles always seemed so damn important. You know, Seth wanted the tag team championship match because of the titles, and that's one of the reasons I think Dean turned on him, because the Shield kind of lost its way. It wasn't about the Brotherhood. It had become about the titles kind of thing. I think that's what his motivation is going to be. So it makes sense for him to just like, you wanted these titles so bad, Seth? There you go. Let's do it. Let's defend the titles together as a team. Of course, Seth doesn't want anything to do with this, but Baron Corbin, being a heel authority figure, he's perfectly fine giving the guys tag team matches, having them defend, and then you do this for a while, where Seth like comes to the ring, then Dean comes to the ring, or Dean comes out but he hangs out. He goes into the audience and he sits down. He doesn't exactly join the action. He comes in at the very last moment to hit like a dirty deeds and win, while Seth does all the work. That kind of stuff. Sort of like a real psychological, I'll mess with your head kind of thing. That would have been super interesting. But hey, I'm not the booker. And I'm still curious to see. I'm not saying that this won't be interesting, but it would have been something very new, very fresh. Yes. Yes, they would have done that. If they had done that, that would have been really, really cool. I thought it would have been completely out of the ordinary, but it's fine. And I think Jason Campbell in chat agrees with me. He says, yes, if WWE were smart, they would have did that, having Dean come out and say that. I think so too. I don't know if it's smart. It just would have been interesting, because I'm still curious. I'm still interested to see where this is going here. There's a recap of Becky's comments about Ronda Rousey on SmackDown Live last week. What planet? That should be a t-shirt. They're recapping it because Ronda's going to be there tonight. Corbin is barricading himself in a storage room, and then Braun breaks through. Dolph comes out to the ring, and he says, despite how the things ended at Crown Jewel, Shane McMahon is not the best in the world. I am. I scratched and crawled my way to the top, and now the conspiracy comes out again. He says, Drew got ejected from ringside. Miz attacked him from behind. And then it was a SmackDown Live referee, so he let all of that shit go down. And as he's talking, Elias's music starts, or his guitar chord plays, and he's up at the top of the ramp. Place explodes. Elias is over, dudes. They're dudettes, friends, guys, gals. He's over. There's nothing to say about it. There's nothing you can add. There's no questioning. His gimmick works. His commitment to the gimmick is unparalleled. And the face turn that they're doing right now, I think it's timely. I think this is the perfect time to do it. He plays the opening to the opening riff to Seven Nation Army, and the audience then chants "Walk with Elias" to the rhythm of the Seven Nation Army riff, and he may have just created something for himself there. I kind of got goosebumps, and I think he himself was a little surprised. He says he spoke to the Gallagher brothers, and they say that Oasis will get back together if he sings this song about Dolph. So he does this song where he runs Dolph down a bit, and Dolph interrupts and challenges him to a match, and that happens. There's some awkward grappling to start this match off. Dolph is trying to ground Elias, but Elias isn't quite... There's something that's not quite meshing between the two. Elias isn't letting Dolph do his thing. There was something odd here. A little off. Elias powers down Dolph, gets him into a headlock. And I said this last week, and or the week before, and I'll say this again. Going into rest holds early on in a match, it's very, very much it's a heel move. Now, if Elias wants to move on and be a babyface, he is going to have to mix up his moveset a bit. And he's going to have to come up with much more explosive offense. We've seen a bit of it again this evening when he started being super violent with Dolph in the corner, where he was pounding on him, stomping him in the corner. His draping mule kick that he does is pretty cool as well. But he's going to have to grow out of this moveset that he's been used to, because it's very much a heel's repertoire. Now that he's a babyface, he's going to have to be much more explosive than he typically does. The stuff goes on a bit like what I just said. Elias battles back with a shoulder block that takes Dolph down. He stomps Dolph in the corner, just like I was mentioning. He gets a big high knee on Dolph, gets a cover for 2. He does a nice sit-out powerbomb that gets 2.9 on Dolph. Dolph hits a terrible zigzag on Elias, and he covers him. But Elias gets his leg on the bottom rope to break up the pin, drift away, and he wins. He beats Dolph Ziggler. I don't know if we're done with this feud, but if we're not, these guys are going to have to get on the same page, because I feel that something wasn't quite clicking between the two here. There's room for improvement. I don't know if this is... we'll see what happens. This was an okay match, which towards the end actually started building up quite a bit. Things started to pick up. I got really, really excited towards the end. So yeah, that was cool. Kurt is backstage, and he says that he knows Corbin's weaknesses and a fire has been lit. All right, fine. Ronda Rousey has her promo. There's not much to it. She's basically calling out not Charlotte, but Becky Lynch. Says she puts her over, saying, it's easy to see why everyone loves you. You've overcome adversity to become WWE Championship. It puts over her match at Evolution, as well. But do not mistake my respect for weakness. And then she goes into a tirade where she's basically saying, while you were doing goofy shit, I was... my mom was putting me into arm bars. I was training for the Olympics. While you were a stewardess serving snacks, I was in the midst of the best championship run in the history of MMA. And I was like, this is kind of weird, because This is not a road you want to go down, Ronda, because while you were being super pouty about losing your title, Becky Lynch was training like hell and has risen to becoming one of the greatest women's superstars, probably of all time. Her Hall of Fame spot is becoming clearer with every passing day. So it's not something. It's kind of weird that she'd want to go down that route. My boy Sean Ross Sapp pointed it out, and I agree with it. So waters. I think they're writing team are gonna have to be careful of that because Becky, if Becky could easily have a comeback where she'd destroy Ronda in the process. Nia Jax comes out, says after SummerSlam, Survivor Series, because I write SS in my notes, for shorthand, Survivor Series, but it's also SummerSlam. So Nia Jax basically says after Nia Jax says after Survivor Series, I'll be waiting for you, champ. And then Ember Moon's music hits, and we're getting Nia Jax versus Ember Moon again. Bit of still an interesting match here. There were, especially towards the end where Ember was really fighting back. Jax was basically doing her strength thing, tossing Ember around. She gets her into a headlock, tries to wear her down. Ember fights back with some kicks. Headbutt takes her down. Ember hits a lovely springboard crossbody onto Nia Jax, and a discus lariat takes Jax down. Ember covers, but only gets 2. And a Samoan drop ends it all for Ember. Then Tamina's music hits. She comes out. She enters the ring again, kind of like what happened last week. Then she picks Ember Moon up, and Samoan drops her again, and Nia Jax not doing anything. In fact, Nia says, turn her around, and then they double team Ember, where Tamina has her in a Boston Crab, and Nia Jax is laying elbows down on her behind her neck. Then we have a new team. We have Tamina and Nia Jax. The turn makes sense. The turn makes sense because because we've seen Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey. We know how that turns out. Ronda Rousey beat Nia Jax cleanly, fairly. There's not much you could add to it except this. Heel Nia Jax with Tamina in her corner. Suddenly, things seemed a little more stacked against Ronda Rousey, and that's what we needed at this point, because just going back to the well, and especially when you consider how dull the build-up to their match was and how much of a tea party it felt like. You need a little more oomph. But this is definitely coming. This is coming after down the road. TLC. TLC is the pay-per-view, right? After Survivor Series. And again, new faces, new things that are happening within the women's division. You can't be against this. They've been underutilizing the women. They're finally booking the women as characters as opposed to booking a division. I'm appreciative of what's going on here. Backstage, Finn Balor is basically saying he's going to fight Bobby Lashley again. Corbin is hightailing it. He's at his limo, and he says, I'm out of here. Angle's fighting Drew McIntyre tonight. And as he gets into his limo, you hear Braun Strowman, who starts running after the limo. And this, I should have looked for a GIF of this before starting the stream. And the way Braun ran was hilarious. It was straight out of a Benny Hill thing where everyone sort of runs. It was so funny. Don't run anymore, Braun. Don't. Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor. Third time's a charm. because Bobby Lashley won this one. Lio Rush is a talented mic worker. He's really, really good, and he's a natural at it. But you really feel like the script is framing him way too much, holding him back. I'm not digging it. I'm not digging his mic work. It was kind of funny when he was talking about showing off Bobby Lashley's hamstrings and Bobby Lashley was bending over. That was kind of funny. But at least they've already decided to drop the mic during the matches, and never mind Rush chanting Lashley during the matches, which is a good thing. But it has to mix it up a little more. It can't always be about, look at how strong he is, look at how powerful he is. There's got to be more to it. Let the manager in him come out. Let him, Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, they didn't always talk about the one thing about the wrestler. They were able to create stories. They were able to create true hype around it. Just let him go. Anyway, Lashley goes right after Finn at the start of this match. He's really aggressive. He hits a fisherman suplex on Finn, but covers him, but Finn kicks out. Finn drop kicks Lashley out of the ring, runs the ropes for a dive, but Lio Rush trips him up. And here's a match I'd actually like to see much more than Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor. Lio Rush versus Finn Balor. That'd be fantastic. Are you kidding me? Lashley's in control. Finn uses his speed. He's lifted into a power bomb, but reverses into a sunset flip. Covers Lashley, only gets 2. Lashley does the stalling suplex, then he covers for 2. The coup de grace misses because of interference by Lio Rush. But still, Finn is able to toss Lashley to the outside. He goes for a dive, but instead drop kicks Lio Rush on the outside. He hits the barricades, goes after, then Lio Rush sort of wanders off. Finn goes after Lio Rush, but Lashley runs in out of nowhere, grabs Finn, and slams him into the barricade. Back in the ring, he hits his reverse dominator thing for the win. So he finally gets a win on Finn Balor. Finally. Then suddenly, like really, really quickly, Drew McIntyre's music hits, and Bobby's still in the ring. Everyone's still in the ring. Finn is still recovering. He comes into the ring and does a standoff with Lashley. They stare each other down, and Lashley sort of gets out of the ring. Lio Rush eggs him to leave the ring, and then Drew helps Finn up to his feet. And you're like, oh, okay, is this a face turn? But no, he whips Finn into the ropes, and a Claymore kick to the face. I have no idea, absolutely no idea what they're doing with Finn Balor anymore. No clue, unless he becomes the demon, and then destroys everyone. I have no idea what's going on. Team Skyway 206 says, Balor 205 live? ? No, I don't think so. I think Finn is too much of a, despite the fact that he loses, despite the fact that he's maybe not in the ideal position that maybe we feel he should be in, he's still a huge draw for Raw. He's a big merch seller. They're not going to put him on 205 live. For sure not. But I mean, I was talking about him versus Lio Rush. I mean, if you're going to have Lio Rush up on main, have the guy wrestle a bit. He's fantastic. And against Finn Balor, are you kidding me? That's an unheralded dream match right there. Excuse me. So we have our main event, which is Kurt Angle versus Drew McIntyre. All right. I'm going to skip through most of the match because most of the match is okay. And, have some back and forth. Drew being very much in control, but Kurt hitting some of his signature offense. He does his 3 Germans at some point. He even hits an angle slam, but, Drew rolls out of the ring. Now, where it gets really interesting, really, really interesting. Now, let's not forget what the stakes are here. If Kurt wins, he becomes captain of Team SummerSlam Raw dudes. Okay? Let's not keep that in mind. He's the legend, and they've been pushing him as the legend. First match on Raw in 12 years. First singles match. Woo! Woo! So we have so basically here they're fighting, they're doing their thing. Kurt runs the ropes at some point, and Drew just claymores him right in the kisser. Like straight out of nowhere. I'm like, holy shit, it's done, but it's not. Drew sort of stares at him. He's sitting there. He's looking at him. He's like, yeah, okay. Let's do some more stuff. And he starts toying with him. Angle goes for his leg, for Drew's leg to get him into an ankle lock, but Drew he pummels him down. And he doesn't cover him. He doesn't do anything. He sort of stares at Kurt again some more. I'm like, okay, he starts trash talking. He's being super, super insulting. So at this one, I'm like, okay, basically here, and this is what I'm thinking, all right, Drew is being super arrogant, super cocky. We have wrestling legend, Kurt Angle here. He's going to mess him up in just a few minutes. Starts calling Angle an embarrassment, and he offers Angle his leg. It's like, come on, Kurt, do something. Well, Kurt does do so. He psychs himself up, gets him in an ankle lock, but Drew reverses it, and he picks Kurt up, gets him in an angle slam, and then he puts the ankle lock on Kurt. Kurt tries to fight out of it, but he taps. Kurt Angle taps to Drew McIntyre, who had the match won, and he was just toying with fucking Kurt Angle, and he beat him. I can't stress to you, gentle listeners, right now, how huge this is for Drew. Since he's returned, I've said this over and over again, the wins he's been getting and the way he's been protected in his matches, he's seldom taken any pins. If he and Dolph lost, it was mostly because mostly Dolph taking the pin, but here he not only beat Kurt Angle, he messed with him. He was so in control that he just, I claymored him. I messed around with him. He tried to get one up on me. I got out of it. And not only that, I finished him with his own finishers. That is huge. If this is how they're building Drew to be a true monster heel. I wrote it here on the Warren board. No, it's not a whiteboard. It's the Warren board. Mother always said branding is important. McLegend killer. This was such a big, big deal for Drew McIntyre tonight. It's not just beating Kurt Angle. Pardon the expression here. But this was about him making Kurt Angle his bitch. Someone, and we all know who, has a tremendous amount of faith in Drew McIntyre. And honestly, If you're not familiar with his NXT work that he did when he returned to WWE, they sent him back to NXT. He had his championship run. He's a changed man. He's not the guy. He's not the 3MB guy from before. There's a lot of faith being put into it, I think it's a safe bet. I think he's become a safe bet. And if there was any doubt as to whether or not Drew McIntyre was being positioned as the guy, if there was any doubt, it has to have been erased tonight. Because he handily dismantled a legend. A guy that in his prime, Kurt Angle could have work or shoot destroyed just about anyone he would have gotten in a ring with. It's really, really big. And I was not expecting this. I was expecting Kurt to get the win on Drew. A rare pinfall or submission. I was like, okay. Because it's fucking Kurt Angle. And they probably wanted him up on Survivor Series in some capacity. So sure. As the general manager. Not the general manager, the captain of the Survivor Series team. Sure. I was sure this is how it was going to go. Have a nice feel-good finish. But no, instead, the heels are on top. I liked this episode of Raw. Not as much for the wrestling, which I thought was really, really average. There's nothing really that stood out. But you can feel that we're still in a post Roman Reigns world. WWE are still feeling their way around, trying to figure out what their next steps are. Who are we putting forward? What path had we given so-and-so to... what path have we given so-and-so? Oh, we have to shift it around because now we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You can feel that there's a lot of new stuff happening because Roman is gone and they have to try and build new guys and gals into these positions. So, to the benefit of us, if you ask me, because we're starting to see new things, hopefully some new matches, especially in the women's division. And the guys will see. But what they did with Drew tonight, I cannot wait. Cannot wait to see how this goes. So as far as storyline development, making new things, you got me, WWE tonight. You got me. Interesting show. Hopefully you found my own show interesting tonight. The show that you've been watching for the past hour or so. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to come back tomorrow for my SmackDown Live recap show. Tomorrow being Tuesday. And remember as well to join FightfulSelect.com. Go subscribe. I'm going to be doing a couple of reviews there for NXT, for 205 Live, for NXT UK. Going to be doing that on Wednesday and Thursday. Got lots of great stuff lined up. But mostly right now, I want to be able to thank all of you for joining me live here in the chat. Cheers to everyone who came out, and cheers to you watching at whatever moment you've decided to watch. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you next time.